and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I am Kellie de Leon with Treasure Data, and we are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Samantha Lopez, Consulting Director at Artefact. Welcome.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for having me.
So I want to jump right in. You have an interesting background and lots of interesting things that we can talk about today. So I want to just jump right in, but just really kind of starting with, can you tell us just a little bit more about your background and what is involved in your role as a consulting director at Artefact? And maybe a little bit more about what Artefact does.
Yeah, absolutely. So Artefact is a data consulting company. And so my background is I originally started in the advertising agency world. I was working at media agencies, primarily working with CPG clients, doing their communication strategy planning, their audience insights, channel allocation, and then actually the digital media planning and buying and measurement and all of that good stuff. And so that's really what exposed me, one, to clients, their business, and then also the gaps in measurement. You know, it's been a few years since I've been in the industry, and seeing how far it's come along from what we were measuring then to what we're measuring now was an interesting journey. And then from there, I went over to a couple of ad tech companies, leading some marketing teams and product marketing. So being able to actually see the infrastructure and the technology and kind of where that intersects with what the client's needs are. I think that's what really brought me here to Artefact, where I lead up the data marketing practice in the US. And so really it's everything from a brand, understanding a brand's data strategy, their first party data, what they have available, what does their MarTech stack look like? How does that need to evolve with the times? And then how do you actually translate that into what they're actually doing from a marketing standpoint, and making sure that that data is flowing all the way through activation and measurement, and really being able to kind of provide this full audience data marketing approach to our clients' business.
I love hearing about your trajectory. I am a fellow former agency person myself, and found my way into marketing from kind of different avenues. But it's so true to think about how much of an evolution has gone on in marketing in terms of obviously the technology that's available to us, the data that's available to us, and then how to make use of that. And I really love how you kind of talked about knitting that all together. I kind of, as a fellow marketing person, want to just dig in a little bit, just talking a little bit about what made you originally want to go into marketing, and then how has your passion for that kind of evolved as you've gotten more into this sort of data and consulting space?
Yeah, it's actually funny. So when I started college, I was exploring either radio, television, and film, or the creative sequence in the advertising program. I went to the University of Texas at Austin. And while I love that creative side, I also wanted to be the little pragmatic side of myself, wanted to kind of focus on how do I do something that's sustainable. And so I really liked the fact that marketing was that mix and intersection of being able to be creative and be pragmatic. And so that's kind of what led me to the direction of advertising and marketing. And then from there, I think the reason I kept going towards first digital media and then towards data-driven marketing and data consultancy is because I really saw the gaps and the holes, and you can have these really big, beautiful ideas that connect with people, but how do you actually get it to reach them? How do you actually measure it? How do you actually, continue to evolve your marketing campaign? And it really resulted in looking at the data. And so I kept going further and further along that path until I ended up here.
I love that. And it's like, the more I'm getting to know about you, the more we must be meant to be friends or something. I was an actress, a theater person in my history. So that creativity and that storytelling is in my background as well. And that was the interesting avenue that I mentioned that kind of helped me find my way into marketing. And I always loved the creative and storytelling aspects of that, but also I'm just a very pragmatic and analytical mind. And so even as I got into marketing, I was always driving for where's the data, and I want to see the answers, and I want to connect these things, and I want to make sure that we're connecting the way we're telling these stories to people across all of these channels. And then obviously that leads you to MarTech and data and ad tech and all the things that we're here talking about today. So I love it.
Actually, Artefact is art and fact. So it's the storytelling, the business piece, and then the fact, the data, and the science. So I think it's kind of a perfect marrying of the two realms.
Yeah. And I think that is what is so required of marketers these days, but certainly just businesses these days, is that mix of art and science. There's so much around, customer experience and brand and all of those things that are so much about storytelling and messaging, and the art of that, and thinking about the experience and the feeling that you want customers to have with your products or with your brand as they interact, in all of the different spaces and ways they do. But there is so much science and fact and data and technology that's required to make that art happen. And there's so much art to thinking about how you use technology, and there's creativity in data and how you're going to use that as well. So I love that.
For sure. I think, people don't even realize the amount of creativity that it takes to do this type of science work. And that's why having the different disciplines within any type of organization, of having these storytellers, these business-minded folks who are leaning in and understanding the technical sides of things, while having the technical folks who also have that business-oriented approach, really helps kind of drive a client's business forward.
Yeah. So let's dig into that a little bit more. Just what excites you about how you're seeing data being used in marketing today, and maybe even how you see the future of data in marketing, where that's going. I would just love to hear more about kind of what excites you about that.
Yeah, I think we're at a really interesting point, right? We started off with maybe just contextual messaging, and then we had a lot of data, and then there were privacy regulations. And so the industry kind of came to this area. And I think it's okay that we have these privacy regulations, and that's actually great from an ethical standpoint to be conscious of our consumers' data. And now that we have it and we're here at this point, we need to then be able to utilize data to be able to create a story and really be able to just really be able to answer a client's needs, but actually allow a brand to connect with the consumer. So you're having that relationship that's not one-sided. You're not just pushing messages and you're saying, first, I'm going to do an awareness message, then a consideration message, and then action. It's who is the consumer? How do we reach them? And how are they reaching out to us? What information do they want from us? So the more that we can understand about our consumers, we can form this mutual relationship versus just this, antiquated pushing out messaging based on my overall marketing strategy. But let's actually figure out a way of structuring more nimble marketing organizations that are allowing that push and pull between the brand and the consumer.
Mm-hmm. I love what you said there about connection, because I think that's such a rich word. It implies both, the emotional connection, with messaging and that sort of thing, but also the connection that is required between different channels or different data or different technologies, but really all of those things that are required to enable that true feeling of connectedness with the customer. We have this phrase at Treasure Data that we use, all connected. And it's like there's connected, which sounds good, but then there's really all connected. And that's that, as you said, not just saying first it's awareness, then it's consideration, like it's going to go in this exact order, but really understanding that every consumer, every customer is a human, and sometimes things move forward and backward and sideways and from this channel to that channel, and they might be a customer and also a prospect at the same time, and all of those ways that it can be messy. And the more that we can understand how to make that feel all connected, and that the experience and the journey and the data needs to flow in different directions and really be seamless, I think that's the critical sort of piece of where we have to go with all of this.
No, absolutely. And I think, starting my career on the agency side, you're very focused on the activation piece of it and how it comes to life. And so actually by coming into this world of actually the MarTech infrastructure that powers all of that activation, it's really been a helpful journey to see how you set up that infrastructure really impacts how you do those activations and the measurement. And so by being able to work with a brand on actually what is their overall business strategy, which will lead to what is the marketing infrastructure that you put in place, and then that will allow your media agencies and your, other CRM counterparts to be able to run really effective campaigns by having this really holistic view of your consumers and be able to kind of map all of their different touch points and life cycle journeys and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. You alluded to strategy, which obviously can mean so many different things across the business. But one of the things that I know is an area of interest for you is using data for social good. And I wondered if you could just talk a little bit about what does that mean? What does it look like? And, maybe how does it fit into strategy?
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing that I'm really passionate about in my personal life. So I love being able to marry that with my professional life as well, because I think there's a couple different angles to it. And I think one is in terms of the diversity of a workforce in tech and data and product. It's really important for me that we start to diversify more women, more people of color, having diversified perspectives. So something that we do at Artefact is we have an Artefact School of Data. So it's a 10-week boot camp that's really structured in the science and the data science and the engineering and more technical elements of the industry to allow more and more women, people of color to enter the industry, because we've seen things like, the bias that happens in AI when you're not having different perspectives in the room. So I think for us, it's important to have young women introduced to STEM, to do programs partnering with different organizations to allow those different perspectives, because then it actually makes the technology stronger by having these varied life experiences, building what your, marketing, your segmentation, your actual way of reaching out to consumer is. And then I think the other piece of it, which is one of my favorite things about coming to Artefact, is really being able to work on a sustainability platform. So allowing brands to be able to understand, it's not easy to understand and measure your sustainability practices. It's a very new subject. It's unregulated. There's not a lot of structure around it, right? So having processes internally at Artefact that allow us to actually work with brands to measure what their impact is, so that we can use data science to help with demand forecasting, with other things that allow them to be more efficient, reduce waste, whether it's their carbon footprint, whether it's producing too much supply, whatever it may be. And, different clients need different things based on their business, but it allows us to help them, evaluate their infrastructure that they have, and then find data science solutions to be more efficient in the way that they operate their business.
Well, thank you so much, Samantha, for joining me today. This has been a really fun and insightful conversation. So thank you for sharing all of your insights and your perspectives. So I just want to say thank you for spending your time, and to say that the folks listening can also visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews.
Thank you so much, Kelly.